The NBA draft is over. We don't talk about that on the podcast. But the NFL draft a few months ago, that is more interesting to a lot of
Yes.
Georgia fans. Today, we're talking about NFL draft prospects for the following year. Top 5 SEC NFL draft prospects as voted on by the hosts of the Locked On SEC podcasts. Come and check out who's number 1 on this list right after this.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Podcast, Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, where we are breaking down UGA for all the glory that is football, basketball. When Daniel finally gets enough.
We're gonna be talking about basketball. Don't you worry about that.
Baseball has a new coach and is looking to rebound after a disappointing year. But we are your team every single day. Today's episode, we are talking about the draft prospects, not that just happened, but the year that is coming up, so that you can look forward to guys playing this year in the SEC, as voted on by Locked On hosts and those who cover the teams. Voted on, we got a top 5 list. And Daniel, I suggest that what we do is we just put this up here for all the people to see and break it down. This is the top 5.
Let's just put it in front of God and everybody.
Just everybody. Just put it on up there. Like, we don't care. So put that list up there for the folk.
All right, let's get it up here for the fine folks.
Yes.
Here it comes. There it is.
Okay.
Top 5 NFL draft prospects in the 2024 NFL draft from the SEC. Number 1, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, Brock Bowers, tight end from the University of Georgia. Number 2, Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's someone's God-given legal name.
Yep.
Number 3, Dallas Turner, edge from Alabama. Number 4, Mason Smith, edge player from LSU. And number 5, C.J. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. Clint, let's start at the top. Brock Bowers, we've talked about before. Brock Bowers is the number 1 prospect in the SEC. He is, because of his position, he might not be the first player drafted in the SEC. Doesn't play what a quote-unquote premium position. He is the best football player in the SEC. He's the best offensive football player in the SEC. He's the best weapon. He's the biggest mismatch. He's the most versatile. He's the best football player in the SEC. It's not surprising to see him at the top of this list. And you and I don't think, are surprised that he's the only Georgia Bulldog on this list. Now, he's not the only Georgia Bulldog that'll be drafted. But it's not a big surprise, is it, Clint, that he's the only Georgia Bulldog on this list?
In the top 5, no. It is not shocking to me, Daniel.
Yeah, we've said before on this podcast, the top-end talent in this Georgia draft class is not what it has been in other Georgia draft classes. Now, there will be several players drafted from this Georgia football team.
Yes.
But Georgia fans, this is good news.
Yep.
It's more of the good players aren't draft eligible this year.
Now, hold on, Daniel.
That's good news for you. It's good.
It is good. It's very, very good. It is top end heavy because, again, he is the best offensive weapon. Now, there are a couple names we're going to get to here in a moment. We're going to talk through who on Georgia may have been omitted from it. But Brock Bowers is going to be generational talent up at the next level. I remember coming out, Vernon Davis, when he was coming into the league, getting drafted out of Maryland, was this generational talent. And he was a great tight end, Daniel. Yeah,
he was a great tight
end. But he wasn't generationally that talent. He was a flash in the pan. Brock Bowers, especially with today's NFL, you can try to comp him to a whole bunch of people, and there's nobody really like him because he's something totally and completely different. And we say alien, we say freak, and those get overused quite a bit. But if you look at the type of position and the type of player, there is no comp for him. Travis Kelce is not a comp for him because Travis Kelce is slower than Brock Bowers. Travis Kelce doesn't run like a wide receiver,
like a gazelle,
does.
like a freaking gazelle.
George Kittle is not a comp for him because again, George Kittle does not have the radius and the athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
He has breakaway speed. He can catch in contested places, but he doesn't have that athleticism that Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to be something completely different, and he should be number one, and he rightly so. Good job, Locked On hosts. Y'all did it right.
Way to go, you. Now let's talk about some other names on this list, Clint, when we come back right after this.
But first, I want to let you know about FanDuel. FanDuel is fantastic because, I don't know, if we're talking about something, say, like who should be the first pick from Georgia.
If only you could bet on that.
If only you could bet on when picks were made. Oh, wait, you can. FanDuel.com/lockedon gives you all the odds possible. And they are fantastic for all of your sportsbook needs. They're the official Locked On podcast as well as Locked On Bulldogs Sportsbook. Daniel and I trust them. They're the only place that we make bets because they're safe. They're reliable. They have all the odds that you need. It is easy interface. Head on to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And right now, first-time users, if you put your hard-earned cash into there and you're making bets based upon what Daniel and I will give you locks during the season, over-unders, season win totals, all alike, you go over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. First-time users, put it in there, and if you don't win on your first bet, they will give you back $1,000 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more.
All right, Clint, back here in segment 2, let's put this list back up on the screen, and you tell me what stands out to you about the other 4 players on this list.
By the end of the year, Michael Williams will be the best defensive end in the SEC. Okay.
By the end of the year, he'll be recognized as the best defensive end in the SEC.
Thank you for correcting me, because right now he is.
You needed a bit of correction, but that's what we're here for.
But Mason Smith should be number 3 on this list, if not number 2 on this list of draft-eligible prospects. He's a dude.
Man's a dude. Man is an absolute freak, and I don't have any problem. I'll say this. I don't have a ton of problem with Kool-Aid being on this list.
No. He's very
I don't have a ton of problem with Dallas Turner being on this list. And I think you could put 2, 3, and 4 in any order you want, and I wouldn't have been mad about it.
Sure.
I think initially it should be said, those are 3 really good players. Those are 3 really highly valuable NFL-type players. And I don't have any problem however you want to order that list.
Absolutely. But may we for a moment actually,
it is our podcast.
It is our podcast. Okay. Daniel, then let me have the floor, because number 5, CJ Latham on this list is an absolute joke. Like I don't care what you say. Mims is a better offensive lineman.
Amarius Mims is a better NFL draft prospect.
Better draft prospect, better offensive lineman. I can make a case Tate Ratledge is a better offensive lineman. Cedric Van Pran, you want to talk about better offensive linemen.
Yep. Doesn't play a premium tackle position, I get that.
Okay.
But Amarius Mims is a better tackle than CJ Latham. And I know that he won't be drafted higher than CJ Latham. That's not what I'm saying.
I don't care.
NFL GMs make absolutely ridiculous decisions. CJ Latham, you want to talk about guys getting the Georgia recruiting bump. CJ Latham is getting that Alabama bump right now in terms of the NFL draft. Anybody recently that we know of that also got that Alabama bump, Clint, maybe an offensive lineman?
There is one that comes to mind, and his name is Alex Leatherwood. Now, leading up to the draft,
the Leatherman.
The Leatherman just gives us all the goodness. Alex Leatherwood, drafted high by the...
we loved him, Alex Leatherwood. He's an elite prospect. Can't miss prospect coming out of Alabama.
He was he was an Outland Trophy winner, won the national championship twice. Jacobs Blocking Trophy, All-American, 2-time All-SEC, second-team All-SEC before that. Started 17 games, picked by the Raiders in the first round, 17th pick. This guy is 6'5", 312. He's a can't-miss prospect until he got to the league and literally couldn't play tackle. And they said, well, we'll try you at guard. He slid into guard. And then we said, well, we'll try to pay you to not play for us by
What if
cutting
we
you.
pay you to go away?
We have
Like-
a guaranteed, fully guaranteed $14.39 million guaranteed to you, but we would rather spend that money for you not to be on our team.
We'd rather you just not show up. That's
And then he went to
that's
the
what
Bears, and the Bears were like, I don't know, can you just put on a jersey? Okay, great. I suppose we need some depth, we'll call it, on the offensive line.
We're not saying that CJ Latham is going to be an absolute bust like Alex
Which
Leatherwood
Alex
was in the
Leatherwood
NFL.
is. Okay, so just
100% Alex Leatherwood, grade A Ryan Leaf bust in the NFL.
ugly.
We're not saying that CJ Latham is going to be that.
No.
But there's nothing that blows you away about this kid at the tackle position.
Nothing.
He is not a top 5 player. We're going to talk about some players in the third segment who should have been on this list, who were not on this list. Now, some of them play at Georgia.
Yep.
Some of them do not play at Georgia.
Yep.
But all of them should be on this list ahead of CJ Latham.
Yeah. Definitively.
That's coming up right after this. All right, Clint. Now we get into the fun part, the wild speculation. This is the 199 is here. We're all together. Thank you so much for.
Even the
By the way,
Leatherman's here.
If you're part of the 199, let us know. Leave us a comment. Hit us up on Twitter. You can email us, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com. We don't give out the email a ton anymore, but we're still receiving emails. We still are accepting the emails. Also, if you're part of the 199 and you want to do your boys a solid, go on to the YouTube and subscribe. You can go right into the description of this video and go subscribe to the other podcast, the Dad Pod.
Come on.
That would help us out. That would be a great.
Give your
That'd be
boys a bump.
just a hoot. It'd be just a hoot for us if you were to do that. All right, Clint.
Please stop.
Let's talk about some NFL draft prospects.
I
Can't
would
stop, won't
rather.
stop.
I would rather you talk about draft prospects. And I would like to say, who's on this? Who's
I'm going to
not
go
on this
first.
list? Yes, who's not
I'm
on this
gonna go
list that
first.
should be in the top 5 of the SEC draft prospect list?
I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go with, hold your breath, the best running back in the SEC.
There it is.
And he doesn't play for Georgia.
No, he does not.
His name's Raheem Sanders, and he plays for Arkansas, and he is quite good at football. And I don't care what you think about running backs in the NFL. This dude's a first-round draft pick.
By the way,
Like,
all Falcons fans just shuddered.
I'm not saying he's a top 10 draft pick,
Oh, they just shuddered more.
but he's a first-round draft pick. Raheem Sanders is a dude. He absolutely gets it done in at a school like Arkansas, and he will continue to get it done. He runs angry. He runs with elite athleticism and elite power. Raheem Sanders absolutely should have received massive consideration for this list.
I don't know why Neighbors is not on this list, wide receiver out of LSU.
Yeah.
This guy,
Malik
again,
Neighbors should absolutely be on this list.
talk about top end speed, talk about catch radius, talk about athleticism. He's the type of kid that just gets on a field and does everything that a wide receiver should countless times over. He's not a Calvin Johnson type prospect where he's just going to be insanely big and insanely fast all over the place. But he does the best thing a wide receiver does, which is catch contested balls, run crisp routes, be freaky athletic, and very twitchy. I don't know why Neighbors is not in the top 5 list. He should be. He's a danger. LSU has 2 guys, one on either side of the ball, that could be. They actually not could be. I'm predicting we'll ride these 2 to the SEC championship against Georgia this year. These 2 guys are
rematch.
Yes, rematch will happen.
Rematch of the 2 best teams in the SEC. Bold prediction for an SEC championship game that you would predict that the 2 best teams in the SEC would make it for
weird.
2 consecutive years.
But what about Georgia players that didn't make the list?
Let's talk
Daniel?
about some Georgia players.
Because everybody's sleeping, and
they are.
by everybody I mean us included as Georgia fans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we know what we have in Bullard. I really, honestly, do not believe that we appreciate the talent that Bullard brings in the safety and the defensive back in the star position, in that strong safety. I don't think we underappreciate him far too much. And I think a lot of the game against Ohio State last year is just countless times on SEC Network these days. They just hit a whole patch.
That's interesting.
Which is wild, because as I watched that, who he flashed tons of times in that game.
Not just the one time. See, everybody knows about the one time.
Nope.
Ohio State fans very familiar with the one time. How about the other times in that game? Javon Bullard in position, making plays. Not a lot could be said positively about the Georgia secondary in that game.
Boo.
But Javon Bullard was really good. Javon Bullard was good all season.
Yes.
Javon Bullard's going to be an all-SEC player this year.
He's going to go in the first round, y'all.
And he's forgotten about by Georgia fans.
Yes.
Overlooked by Georgia fans. Georgia fans falling all over themselves to talk about who's going to start at safety opposite of Starks. Well, I mean, maybe Javon Bullard will continue to play the star. Let me just tell you, if there's not a great option at safety, there's already a great option at safety. His name's Javon Bullard. We're doing fine.
And we'll rotate everybody else throughout that.
We're doing fine.
Problem.
I'm going to take you from one defensive back to another, Clint, a guy that you and I are not sleeping on, a guy that you and I have been high on for quite some time, a guy that you and I have been calling the best corner at Georgia for multiple years now.
Yep.
Kamari Lassiter is a NFL draft prospect if ever I've seen one. The guy does it all. He covers.
Yeah.
He plays on an island. He drops into deep coverage, and then he comes up and plays press, supports the run. He gets his nose in there inside the line of scrimmage. You see him blitz off the edge a little bit.
Yes.
You're going to see Kamari Lassiter is going to be tested more this year against the elite wideouts, more so than he was even last year. He's going to have those matchups. It's going to be him. And you know what? I think that's going to be really good for Kamari Lassiter and his draft stock, because all of a sudden you're going to see guys like Malik Neighbors going head-to-head against Kamari Lassiter instead of Keely Ringo.
Yes.
You're going to see those elite wide receivers going head-to-head against Kamari Lassiter, and NFL draft scouts, as they're watching all that tape on Malik Neighbors, are going to be saying to themselves, now, who is this young man?
Who's this cat?
Let me look more into number 3 in the Georgia secondary, because Kamari Lassiter is a bona fide NFL draft prospect.
That's exactly right. And to me, the biggest thing about NFL draft prospects is tenacity and toughness. Again, in the NFL, you don't get to choose who you tackle. You got to tackle.
No. And if Derrick Henry's running the ball, he's the guy you have to tackle. And
guess what Kamari Lassiter don't care about? He don't care who carrying the ball, because he will come up and smack you dead in the face mask. This dude is a baller. He is one of our favorite players on this defense. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On podcast. Your team every single day. We will see you all next time.
See ya.